Start this. So welcome everybody to our penultimate ICMS mentoring networking session for the year. I think this is season three. We've been doing it. Had some great speakers, and again, we have another great speaker coming up today. We'll transition to Joe in just a second, but I wanted to turn it over to Tom to provide some updates about the annual Congress, some exciting changes to the student experience and the poster presentation. So, Tom, the floor is yours, sir.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Appreciate the opportunity. Joe, thanks for joining us today. And for all the students that are with us and other guests, thank you. Always great to have our monthly mentor programs and great to see folks from all over the world typically join us, which is awesome. Real quick, I'll make it brief. ICMS Annual Congress takes place in Indianapolis, December 10 and 11. We kick off with an incredible fun reception on December 9th, so great networking opportunities that evening. So we'd encourage you to get in town by 5 o'clock so you can join us for that. And then we have our Jump Medic racetrack safety program, Jump Medic training, which is an 8 station hands-on training. Leonard's actually one of our instructors for that, along with a host of other ICMS members. It's an SFI certified course, so it does come with a 3-year certification from SFI. We do require folks who have a medical background or training to participate in that. For the students on here, I really want to encourage you to try to join us if you can. I know typically this falls close to finals week. This year, I've been told for Purdue and from some of the other universities, it's actually the week before finals week. Aiden said that even for Michigan State, which is encouraging. The poster presentation is something we started last year. It was very well received. We had 12 students from 5 different universities come join us, and our attendees of the annual Congress loved it. They love seeing up and coming talent in the room. That's our future of our, obviously, of our industry, and we love that. But the research and quality of work that you guys all had done was phenomenal. We took it this year and we added a little twist to it. And by that, we said at the end of day one of the 2-day annual Congress, we're going to have all the attendees select who they thought their top 3 poster presentations were. And those 3 people will be notified that evening by me that they've been selected to come back on day 2 and actually present at the ICMS Annual Congress. This is a great opportunity for college students to be able to present at an international motorsport symposium. It's literally 2 great days of scientific and medical presentations with leading experts from around the world. I just checked registration. Right now, we have folks from 9 different countries coming to join us this year, and including, I think we're up to 6 Formula One chief medical officers, as well as the chief medical officer for IMSA, IndyCar, NHRA, Moto America, NASCAR. So again, we've got a very diverse group coming, and we hope that you might be able to participate in the poster program. If you'd like more information on that, I'll share my email in the chat box for everybody. But we'd love to encourage everyone to come join us in December in Indianapolis. It's a beautiful time of year to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. And yeah, I'm just going to echo that. I've been emailing out the links to the annual Congress as well as information on the poster presentation. Tom, you had made this offer before. I'm not sure if it still stands, so I'm going to say it. Correct if I'm wrong.
Sure.
If uh, people are interested in getting information about hotel rooms, if they're getting slim, you might be able to help them out with that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a big, I think, obstacle for all of us right now. I literally just spoke to one of our corporate partners. They forgot to book, and Aaron Zintgraf from Feld Entertainment down in Florida forgot to register, so he did last night. He's like, I can't find a hotel. So PRI through their housing department still has hotels. Our room block has sold out. PRI still has rooms out at the airport at 6 different hotels, and then also I went down and met with about 5 different properties, Hilton properties, that are 5 to 10 minutes away from my house, which would put you less than 20 minutes away from downtown. All 5 of them have rooms currently on Hilton.com. Most of them are around 140 to 155 bucks a night. Hampton Inn, Hilton Garden Inn, Home 2 Suites. I mean, there are some options out there that I can help with. And again, it's an easy Uber ride downtown. So it's easier to Uber downtown and back and forth than it is probably to park in a parking garage. So if anybody is interested in learning more about what's available, what the schedule is, the lineup, simply email me. I'll be more than happy to share that information with you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom. And For those of you that have not been to ICMS or downtown during PRI weekend in Indianapolis, I will say parking at the convention center is one of my top five nightmares if you've ever had to experience that. Um, well, with that, thank you, Tom. Thank you everyone for joining. I'm very excited to turn it over to our speaker today, Dr. Joe LaPlaca. I've known Joe for, I think, at least 10 years now. It seems about right. Like, I feel like it's been a while.
Yeah.
Had a lot of amazing conversations, fun interactions as we were working on topics to sort of improve human performance in motorsports. Joe is the founder and owners of Aries Elite Sport Vision, which is a cutting edge vision performance center that focuses on vision, cognition, and optimizing the performance of all types of athletes, with motorsports being one of them. I'm going to let Joe share his slides, his experience, his background, kind of what he's done, and then I think that will go for about 35 minutes, and then we'll switch over to some Q&A from the group. And we're very grateful for you taking the time to talk to us, Joe. We appreciate your time. With that, you're welcome to share your screen. The floor is yours. I might turn my video off just to protect bandwidth, but I'm still here.
Awesome. Let me get this screen share up. That's the one. All right. Can you guys see that all right?
It looks to be coming. There we
Yes.
go. Perfect. We got it.
All right. So, like David was saying, my name is Dr. Joe LaPlaca, owner and founder of Aries Elite Sports Vision in Carmel, Indiana. And yeah, I think David, it's been maybe 7 or 8 years at least that we've known each other. And so I'm a sports vision optometrist by training. I went to optometry school, graduated in 2009, did the corporate route, hated it, and then decided to start my practice in 2018 to do sports vision training, but vision training for high performance athletes, and how we can impact that space, not just from the vision, but how the brain actually processes all that information, and then how that translates out to their sport. And one of the topics, or I think the topic that's most interesting to me, is their choice decision time. And so that's what I'm going to choose. I chose to speak about today. And it's kind of defining what that is and how that relates, especially to motorsports just in general. So everybody can see that okay? Good. All right, so IndyCar, the margins between victory and catastrophe are measured in milliseconds. So this isn't like poetic exaggeration, it's neurological and physiological fact. Every driver, crew member, and strategist operates inside an environment of relentless temporal compression where the human nervous system must operate near its biological ceiling. The metric that defines this ability, in my opinion, is choice decision time. So the total duration from stimulus detection to the initiation of an accurate motor response in a context of multiple possible actions. So unlike raw reaction time or simple reaction time, which is measured as a reflexive response to a single stimulus, choice decision time captures the layered cognitive process of perception, selection, inhibition, and execution. So these are the milliseconds that decide whether a driver threads a gap at 230 or ends up in a wreck. In essence, choice decision time quantifies the bandwidth of the human brain under chaos, how quickly one can recognize relevance, suppress noise, and act decisively. So most people confuse reaction time with decision time. So a light flashes, you hit a button, that's raw reaction time. There's no additional cognitive processing on top of that. It's valuable, but there's a limitation to it. Choice decision time introduces the complexity here, the need to perceive, evaluate, and choose among these competing stimuli that they encounter. So in elite contexts like motorsports, athletes face super dynamic, multidimensional sensory fields, auditory cues from the pit wall, peripheral motion from a competitor, visual changes in tire degradation or flag color. Each of these stimuli compete for attention. And the brain's decision architecture must prioritize, suppress, and execute all of these within fractions of a second. So this layering cognitive act engages the prefrontal cortex, the parietal lobe, and then the basal ganglia. So drawing on visual attention, inhibitory control systems. So choice decision time, therefore, isn't just about being fast. It's about being selectively fast, and fast to do the right thing, not everything. So imagine a light, a photon, hitting the retina. So as light comes in, it hits your retina. This journey of decision begins here. So they take that light, turn that into electrical energy, and then this is where the visual cortex then decodes the pattern and motion. The parietal lobe localizes spatial relevance, so where that is happening in space, and then the prefrontal cortex determines the meaning and the response value. This perception, decision, action loop occurs in roughly 150 to 250 milliseconds in experts or expert performers, experts in their competition. So in elite drivers, the neuroimaging studies reveal heightened efficiency in this loop, in this perception, decision, action loop. This suggests that training can sculpt the neural architecture to minimize the choice decision time. So if we can decrease that gap within the choice decision time. So studies in both aviation and sport show that experts suppress irrelevant stimuli more rapidly. So they preserve neural bandwidth for task-critical data. So improving choice decision time isn't just about teaching the eyes to see better or clearer or have a better visual acuity. It's about actually training the brain, which is connected to the eyes, it's just an extension of it, to decide faster with the same information. So drivers process hundreds of sensory inputs per second. Grip variation, throttle feedback, tire wear, unpredictability of other drivers. And at 230 miles per hour, 100 millisecond hesitation equals unnecessary distance traveled. This is often a decision between a clean overtake or an accident. So these lapses stem from decision latency, not sensory failure. And research in these elite decision-making shows that speed and accuracy can coexist when cognitive load is appropriately trained. Let me say that again. So in elite decision-making, studies show that speed and accuracy can coexist when cognitive load is appropriately trained, which most of these individuals are not training yet, or they haven't even thought about it, especially in other professions. So by targeting their choice decision time, we're not just training their reaction time, we're optimizing their selective attention and inhibitory control under extreme peak. So under extreme peak arousal, where there is 1,000 things going on at the same time, we're helping them selectively optimize and inhibitorily control what they're responding to and how they're responding to it. This isn't just for the drivers, though. So pit crews perform under mechanical and psychological compression. So each hand motion, tire gun alignment, jack timing, fuel release, outside front, release the driver, all of this relies on visual motor coordination within 300 milliseconds, so less than a blink of an eye. So every member's choice decision time determines the collective timing of the team, of the group. And so a single misfire in this neural sequence, a half-second hesitation, this ripples through the team. So when choice decision time is trained through repeated exposure to temporal and visual stressors, synchronization becomes instinctive, meaning the team learns how to do all of this stuff better together. The brain learns predictive timing, essentially running motor sequences before conscious recognition. So think of it as they're automating these things that they do before they even have to think about it. Like the motor, the muscle memory on the motor side of things, that can be automated, and then it allows for their cognition to have more bandwidth to run. So this ultimately isn't just resulting in faster hands, it's resulting in faster decisions, feeding coordinated precision. Again, not just for the drivers, not just for the pit crew, but for engineers and strategists, right? So for engineers and strategists, choice decision time is different, but it manifests cognitively rather than physically. So they have to integrate telemetry, weather data, radio communication. Where's the next driver? Where is he? How close is he approaching? Each a stimulus that requires prioritization under pressure. So these decision collapse under overload isn't a failure of intellect, but possibly of temporal processing capacity. So how much can they cognitively load and process while the variables change, if the variable changes? So this is why choice decision time applies across the entire motorsports ecosystem, and every role is a cognitive athlete operating within an unforgiving clock. So what is raw reaction time? So raw reaction time measures reflexes. And what is choice decision time? Choice decision time measures cognitive precision. So simple reaction time reflects the spinal or subcortical reflex arcs. The nervous system's autopilot, essentially. Like if there's something flying at me, what is my reflex to hitting that thing? Or if I'm a soccer goalie, how fast can I get to the outer edge to block that ball that I see flying in the air? Choice decision time engages cortical integration, attention networks, and executive control. How are all of these things interwebbed together? So it's the difference between stepping on the brake reflexively versus deciding to brake earlier to avoid turbulence downstream. So choice decision time integrates vision, cognition, and motor control. So a unified metric of real-world decision quality under time pressure. So for this reason, choice decision time, I believe, is the truest predictor of performance consistency under these dynamic conditions. As variables change, how good is your choice decision time? Because that will be the ultimate decider, I think. So here at Aries Elite Sports Vision, we quantify choice decision time through task protocols like choice reaction time, go, no-go drills, or rapid recognition. So each of these assess different components of the decision chain. So discrimination speed, inhibitory accuracy, false positive suppression, perceiving the world in 3 dimensions, picking up how as you turn to the right or as you turn to the left, how did you pick up that information and how did you integrate that into your overall picture? So these form let's call it a cognitive fingerprint for every athlete. So based on how they perform on these drills, we can get a good idea of where the breakdown of these things happen potentially for them as they're cognitively fatigued, as their variables change and they react to those variables. And the data mirrors what EEGs and fMRI research have shown, that experts display shorter neural latencies between the perception and the action, particularly in the prefrontal motor connectivity. So when you measure choice decision time correctly, you aren't timing reflexes, you're actually capturing how efficiently the brain filters the reality that it's perceiving. So this is not a static number. It's plastic. It's trainable through repetition, adding complexity, adding cognitive load. making it harder on the athlete to perform in these states increases neural efficiency and improves this via myelination and synaptic pruning. What does that mean? Literally, it means we can rewire the brain for faster conduction. So I like to think of it as like a almost like a highway, and sometimes there are more efficient routes to get to that thing. That's what we're doing. So you're trying to find the most efficient rewiring to get this information through your brain faster. So what we found is through controlled training and through standardization and understanding what their baseline is, to doing training, to reevaluation, average choice decision time can improve by like almost 20% over 6 weeks. So this is with durable retention under fatigue. So just as your body adapts to strength training, the decision network also adapts to progressive cognitive overload. Meaning we're trying to put them into a spot where we're training them at their peak. So then they're learning that this is capable for them. And then the next time we do that drill or the next time we train that, we're working in this zone where it's outside of their comfort zone, but not too hard to frustrate them. So how do we progressively overload the system to mimic the things that they're experiencing in the car or in the pit lane or at the strategy table, right? The key is decision density. So try to compress as many relevant choices into short time frames until speed becomes automated and there's an automated accuracy there. So how do we automate the body to do these complex tasks easily? Then when we add another variable, another layer to that automation stuff is not what they have to concentrate on any further. They have to concentrate on the next variable, the next load, the next piece of information. So you guys all know fatigue and focus and dehydration. All of these things impact how we make choice decision time. So under stress, sleep deprivation, here, all of these things, the cortical processing slows and executive attention fragments. So as we are fatigued, as our brains are dehydrated, all of that stuff directly impacts how we make our choice decision times. And that can sometimes show up as late race decision errors or overshooting braking zones or delayed pit confirmations. These are all symptoms of cognitive fatigue and not necessarily mechanical error. Not the car having a problem or it overshooting or undershooting. It's just the driver has some cognitive fatigue and they're struggling with something. So training the brain for these decision endurance and sustained choice decision times for their efficiency under load is what we've been working on. Really building out the programming for how do we do this in almost like a lab setting versus what's traditionally been done in optometry or sports, which doesn't really try to mimic this as much as possible for these individuals. And so this involves interval-based cognitive conditioning where rest, nutrition, and neuromodulation support their neural recovery between all of these decision bouts. So in office, we'll track how was your sleep? What's your heart rate variability? How hydrated are you? Like we'll track all of that stuff to see how that's affecting their choice decision time. So I think while other people are out there worried about raw reaction time or clarity of vision, I think the thing that we've really wanted to stress is the progressive overload of this. So we evaluate them in an 1.5 hour long evaluation. We take a look at everything from what their clarity is, what their prescription is, how their eyes work together, how they process the 3D world around them, how they make that world in their reality. And then how does all of these other neurological factors factor into it? Based on that information that we get, we then train them based on their weaknesses, but also their strengths. And then after 3 months of training, we'll reassess them. And then we can manipulate the stimulus complexity and decision density, almost like resistance training for them in physical training. So as they're getting better and better at these skills, we add in complexity. We add in strobe glasses. We add in weighted hands. We add in switches. So if their task is right hand red, left hand green, halfway through the drill, we say, okay, switch. And now they have to go right hand green, left hand red. So these are the like small types of things that we'll do to cognitively change and work on their flexibility. So athletes will typically progress from simple binary recognition to multi-choice, high tempo decision training tasks with like noise interference or addition, subtraction, other variables that they have to now integrate into this training to make it more complex. So the structure mirrors principles established in cognitive motor learning research from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, right? Like these are things that have been around, but haven't been implemented at the really, really highest level for some of these guys yet. And so as their choice decision time improves, measurable outcomes will follow. So reduced lap variability, shorter pit stop variances, fewer micro arrows in telemetry logs, team less mistakes, less missed pit stops, different issues that typically they dropped the jack too soon or the lug nut fell off because they weren't precise on where they were putting it on. All of these things cause problems and issues over the course of a race. So data from elite level motorsports teams suggests that performance consistency correlates directly with lower intra-individual choice decision times. So milliseconds of neural efficiency compound into seconds of race performance. The same way compounding interest grows in your finance, like that's the same principle we're talking about here. All of these little things add up to larger numbers, which is overall track performance, overall team performance. So precision isn't an accident, it's an accumulation of well-trained milliseconds. So in one controlled study, a 180 millisecond choice decision time difference separated collision from avoidance during a simulated emergency. So in human performance terms, that's less than half, almost less than half the width of a blank. In motorsports, it's the width of survival. So this illustrates the nonlinearity of decision performance. So small gains in neural speed create exponential improvements in safety and results. So when you train choice decision time systematically, driver, crew, engineer, the whole operation begins to think faster together. So this synchronization, termed cognitive cohesion, arises when shared temporal mapping reduces communication latency. Essentially, if everybody's firing faster, the team is going to fire together faster. So their brains are all going to fire together faster, creating team operations within similar choice decision time windows exhibit smoother transitions and more intuitive coordination. So how do we really build a better team is doing it so that everybody is doing the things that they're supposed to be doing better. Not just the driver, not just the strategist, like everybody has to be a part of improving how they process information and improving the complexity that they can process all at the same time. So this collective neuroplasticity applies directly to competition. So I would argue that the future of motorsports isn't just in aerodynamics or tire compound or the functioning of the new hybrid engine. It's it's still human performance. It's the neural engineering. So, there's a whole bunch of different technology that's coming out. There's a whole bunch of EEG-based cognitive monitoring, adaptive feedback, all of these things, Whoop and Apple Watch, like all of these things are beginning to quantify how the human performance is functioning. And now we need to make a shift to figure out what is the choice decision time in live environments. How is that functioning? How are these things affecting their decisions? And so soon, I think there will be some individualized choice decision time models, and this will predict optimal arousal zones for each role, allowing training and race strategy to adapt dynamically. Essentially, in the mornings at 9 till 12 is when your strategist has the best time to train this. And then your driver's a little bit later because he's normally like prepping for his race. So this is probably a better time for him to implement his choice decision time training. And so like figuring that out as well is a huge piece of the human performance tech. And so like I would almost call it like precision cognition. So how does that impact, plus their hydration, plus their sleep quality, plus their nutrition? How do all of these things impact their choice decision time over the long haul? So at Aries Elite Sports Vision, we don't just train raw reaction time. We don't just train the eyes. We train resolution, cognition, and challenging them to a point where it's so hard in here that it makes everything else seem easy, right? Our goal is not just faster responses, but smarter ones, better ones that reduce the gap between what they're seeing and what they're able to do without sacrificing judgment. So choice decision time defines where vision becomes action and where milliseconds matter. So in IndyCar, that isn't just a metaphor, it's survival. And then there's my references page. That's it. Thanks, guys.
Joe, thank you so much for a great presentation. Really appreciate your time coming to share with us. I saw Tom Gideon sticks a couple questions in the chat. Tom, if you'd like to ask those or you'd like me to read them, please go ahead. Or actually, is Tom still here? I can't tell if he's still here or not.
Yeah, I'm here.
Tom, go. Please feel free to ask your questions.
Yeah, I'm here.
Tom, there you are.
I first of all, very, very interesting. And I was thinking, of all the things that you could try to improve as you age, this would be a good one because you could make improvements without finding out that you have Alzheimer's disease or something like that, something very, very scary. My first question is, how is this like muscle memory? We talk about that in athletics like golf and things like that, but I just wondered, does this reach over into muscle memory?
I think so. There's certain physical aspects of this that require them to have a certain amount of understanding of where their hands are in space, right? So there is a muscle memory implementation process of that, but I don't think it's quite the same as muscle memory, because what you want to do when you're training them is make it difficult and make it different enough so that they're not just doing better at the task, they're actually doing better just in general. So like as you change all those variables, we want those variables to make it harder and harder and harder, and not just I'm doing the same thing over and over and over, and that's why my scores are getting better.
Okay, I see. Yeah. There's
I
a
actively
difference.
try to, yep, I actively try to avoid doing that piece of it because if you're going to do the same thing repetitively over and over, there is going to be improvements over time.
Right.
But we don't want to do that, and
Right.
that's what we've really tried to not do is to do that.
My second question is, you say maybe a 20% improvement. Uh, what do you ever go back? You have a baseline, so you have something to base 20% on. Do you ever
Yep.
go back later and see if they still have that, or how long does it last?
Yeah. So what we find is that as they're actively training, they're making improvements, right? If they stop training, there'll be a dip, but it's not back to the origin point. It's just a
Okay.
dip down to lower than where they were as they were actively training, right? So this is now their new spot here. And the return or the rebound on their back to where they were is pretty quick, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks as they're training, right? So they can lose a little bit of it, but it's never back to where they originated from. And it's a quick rebound once they start training again.
Okay. Okay. One more question. Are there, this is you talk about neurons and electricity and things like that. Are there any legal chemicals like caffeine that would be helpful, to do these jobs better?
So the one supplement so first of all, I would say hydration, like that and electrolytes is a huge thing. And
Okay.
David knows that as well. But the other thing that I would say is there's a compound called Vision Edge Pro, which is a stack of zeaxanthine, mesozeaxanthine, and lutein. And those directly target the macula, so your central vision. And they actually help the central vision improve reaction time because it's processing the information at the retinal level faster,
Okay.
better. So it's like eating a bushel of carrot, like when somebody says, oh, you got to make sure you eat your carrots or your kale or whatever. You'd have to eat like a bushel of carrots for it to have an impact. This is like just taking a pill of a bushel of carrots. And so like I would say that's like a performance enhancing thing that not a whole bunch of people are still doing.
Is that a vitamin like vitamin A or anything like that?
Yeah, so it's like it's called a carotenoid.
Okay.
And so, like the yellow color in carrots, that's why it's called a carotenoid.
Right.
That's the thing that directly supplies the macula with nutrients and the underlying health benefits of that. So that's what really makes that function really, really well.
Is that sort of thing available on the market or what?
Yep. I'll put it in the chat here.
Okay.
And Joe, while you do that, if you don't mind, stop sharing your screen, and then we can all kind
Oh,
of
yes.
see a little bit better.
I didn't know I didn't stop sharing it. How do
That's
I?
it. No, I forgot to say it easier, and thanks to Tom for reminding me.
How do I unshare?
It should just if at
Stop
the
sharing.
top it should say stop share. There we
Good.
go.
There you go.
Cool.
All right. Good. Um, Pro.
And then Joe, while you share this, yeah, I'd be interested in it as well as I'm getting a little older and don't want to wear glasses. That's another story. I do. We have several hands up, and I guess I
Yep.
see the order of Chris, Tom, and Garv. So we'll take it from there.
Judd, thanks so much. That was a really interesting presentation today. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed. I run into this a lot, talking about raw reaction time. So it was really refreshing to see your approach of thinking like, yes, sure, maybe better than nothing, but clearly it's not going to fit the bill in terms of really like meaningfully enhancing driver performance from that perspective. But my one question that I wanted to raise with you, just because I'd be super curious with your experience, is how do you think about transfer learning when you're working with the drivers, right? I imagine a lot of the drills you have them do are not like maybe necessarily sport specific, but might be based on a computer screen, an iPad, it might be in a lab-based setting. But how do you think about transfer, of course, like to a race car for this perspective, but also I poked around your website. You clearly work with baseball players and everything else. Like, how does that last component change based on the type of sport or type of environment that an athlete is performing in?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's one I get all the time. I'll have baseball facility coaches come in and they're like, "Oh, well, we could do this for their drills and blah 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 blah." And I always am very, very initially I was like, okay, well, I'll try and do sport specific drills or I'll try and do some of this stuff, but the functionality of it doesn't give me any benefit, right? And I also want to be careful because I am not a IndyCar strategist and an IndyCar I'm not dealing with their neck muscles. I'm not dealing with their core. I'm like not my area. And so I want to make it real clear that I am not in those spaces, especially to the athletes. And there are about 85 to 90% of all of this stuff transfers between sports because we're just looking at it from how does the information come in? Every sport information has to come in. How does the brain process that information? And then how do we signal a motor action? Right? That's all I care about. And so I think that it's been really good for me to, over the last few years, really like hone in on that's not, I'm not going to be your basketball coach. So we're not doing dribbling drills. Like, I don't care about your reaction time as you're doing this dribbling drill. Don't care about it. Your standardization is what is you against you, limiting the amount of variables that we introduce into this to actually get a good picture of what we're doing. Because I think that there's a lot on like social media where they're like, they're doing all these really cool looking fancy drills, but it's not meaningful at all. Like, none of it is meaningful. They're not tracking the data. They don't know what your starting point was to when you change the drill variable. Like, even just like here, like this wall, it's programmed out so that I know exactly on level 2, this is what your numbers should be. This is what they were 3 months ago, and this is what they are now. And if we change a variable, this is how much it changes that thing. Right. And so I think that the focus should be how do I impact their brain and not necessarily their sport, because all of that stuff will parse itself out, I believe.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. Tom Weisenbach, you have your hand up.
Yeah, Joe, question for you. Just curious, because as Chris said, you work with baseball, you work with other athletes. Have you done work with just IndyCar drivers or other forms of racing drivers, pilots, etc.? And if so, how do they compare between the two different types of athletes? Because they're all athletes. How do they compare from your studies of racer to racer from different forms of racing? Drag racing is, to me, completely different than any other form of racing because the sudden G-force they got going back and forth. Or if you haven't done that, how does it compare against your baseball players or other athletes?
Yeah. So I've worked with IMSA racing. I've worked with NHRA racing. I work with kids who are doing karting. I work with all forms of racing, essentially, midget, dirt, like all of those things. And I think that if I'm going to compare them, like if I'm comparing them each against each other, it's hard to do. Not that it's not doable. It's just that they're so different. So we're focusing on different things, I think, sometimes. Like the NHRA dragster, I'm not focusing as much on multiple object tracking as I would be for an IndyCar driver, right? Like those skills are going to be different because the way that they process that information is different. So IndyCar drivers, they should be really good at multiple objects at the same time. Whereas NHRA, they're focused on the tower. That's it. They're ready, set, go. So it's hard to compare them even just within racing. And I think it's important that we compare them against themselves or the previous version of themselves versus against each other. If that makes sense.
Okay. Sure.
Right.
Sure.
I will say like there's a comparison to be made between pilots and IndyCar drivers. except that, so from a processing speed thing, like those guys are pretty comparable. They're pretty comparable. But what's happening with pilots versus drivers is pilots are doing this a lot more, right? Like they're over their head, they're looking back shoulder, they're like, and then they also have to process this little thing that's right in front of their eye.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, so they're having to do different type of tasks than IndyCar drivers in terms of how much they're putting together and how they're putting it together. So, and then the G forces are comparable but different, because they're constantly pulling G's
Yep.
that puts them at risk for blackout, versus IndyCar where like it's momentary and it's not really at as high a risk for blackout, right?
Yep.
So like all of those things are very, very different.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cool.
I hope
Awesome,
I hope
Joe.
that answered your question. Yeah.
Joe, this is where this is going great. We have so many great questions. I'm trying to use all of my cognitive decision-making power to find the right ones and ask the right time. Garv had his question answered the same question as Dr. Hill. I have a question in the chat for you, and then we'll go to Aiden. So this one came from Becca Patrick, and it was a follow-up to the question about the carotenoids. Is there something drivers must take regularly to see benefits? I guess could they take it once? And Becca, please feel free to jump in and correct me. Is this something you got to take it once, take it regularly? What's the time course? Could you maybe provide some feedback on that?
Yeah, it takes time for these effects to actually take effect. It is something that every driver that we work with, we put on, and it's one pill per day. So super easy. They can add it into their stack. And it actually has omega-3, 6, and 9s in it as well. So from an overall health and tier layer film and all of those like additional benefits that you get from fatty fish oils, it has that in there as well. So it might seem small, but like even just their tier production is important, because as they're driving, there's an airstream that comes up and through the helmet, and that dries out their contact lenses, but it also dries out their eyes if they don't have contacts. And that can directly affect their clarity and their performance as they're driving. So adding this into their stack is huge.
And this is something that I guess maybe I'm just unaware. Drivers, athletes, this is one of the supplements they're able to take along with
Yep,
other.
it's NSF. Yep, it's NSF safe. And so that's another reason why I'm like, this is the only supplement that we sell additional to what we're doing as services, because of everything about it. Like all of the stuff is great. There's zero downside. It's only positive, and it is NSF safe, so it's not going to be flagged as like a PED or something like that.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
Of course.
No, thank you for the great question. We have time for one more question, and it's going to go to Aiden. And I sort of know what he's going to ask, but I will just chime in. There's a lot of drivers now running helmet coolers or helmet blowers to cool them down, and one of the complaints is dry eyes due to the airflow. So this is a good other thing to keep in mind. Aiden, if I stole your thunder, I'm sorry, but you also make my run lab perfectly, so I'll give you credit for that.
No, that was one of the things I was thinking along the line. But sorry, Joe, if you mentioned this a little bit already. I had to jump off for a couple minutes towards the end of your presentation. But I'm a medical student under Dr. Ferguson at Michigan State, and I was just wondering how you talked about the one supplement. If there's any other supplements that you've looked into or learned about. And I know there's stuff that NASCAR drivers and I know some IndyCar drivers in the past that are becoming more public of using nicotine or caffeine tablets. And I was wondering if you knew anything more about that, how it affects reaction time, decision making, etc.
I can't give you a good answer on the caffeine or nicotine. My assumption is that it's a stimulant, and that the stimulant makes them feel like they're making faster decisions. But again, it's not necessarily rooted in I haven't done like a controlled study where it's like you come in, I'll give you this Zin, and you do your training, in terms of like their raw reaction time versus their choice reaction time, right? Like I haven't done that or parsed that out, so I can't really give you good answers on that. In terms of other supplements, there's some nootropics that are interesting. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but anything that's going to directly enhance the connectivity of your vessels or of your synapses, like if there's anything that can connect those things better and make those connections happen better and encourage neuroplasticity, those would be things that I would be interested in. And I'm not necessarily just interested in stimulants, if that answers your question.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's something we're looking into here at Michigan State. So great insight. Thank you so much.
You'll have to keep me posted on that because I think it would be a cool study to see what it does to just raw reaction time and then choice decision time and accuracy.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Could you post your email in the chat?
Yep.
Joe, you said something that Aiden's been chasing for like a year, and I don't have to admit that he's right. So I'm just going to ignore this. He'll talk to you about it, I'm
Uh-oh.
sure.
Oh, shoot. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. Don't worry about it. We're all learning. This is all discovery. There's no information out there, and I don't want to admit that Aiden was right all along. So I'm just gonna say thank you so much for joining us. I hijacked this and made it about me, and I don't want to do this. Joe, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming and sharing this. I think the pure fact of the number of questions, the talk about what we know, what we don't know, just really enforces about what a cool area this is and how much more work needs to be done. And we're just very grateful you're out there doing it with character and integrity. And I think this is just phenomenal. And thank you for coming to be a part of this. Tom made a mention to everybody, and I'll extend this info out to you, Joe, as well. Please consider becoming a member of ICMS. Tom put the link in there. It's a great resource for all of us to come together and work on driver health, safety, and performance. So we appreciate you very much. And with that, I will say thank you all very much. Our next meeting is a month from now, and then we are done with this season of it. So we appreciate all of you. Thank you very much. I will share the recording probably a little bit later today for those that want to take it later when they're on the other side of the world. And yeah, fantastic job, Joe. So grateful for you. And I'll have to deal with Aiden later. That's okay. So thanks so
Thank you
much.
yeah, thanks so much for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Cool. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks,
Yep.
Dave.
Thanks, guys.